Alright, a game featuring a cute little girl, a big sword, and giant enemy slimes. I think it's safe to assume this game is from Japan. The game boasts a deep combat system, quirky dialogue, and some fairly impressive 2D visuals, but will that be enough to satisfy the exceptionally high standards of the Armless Octopus crew? I suppose that's why you're watching, so let's get right to the Armless Octopus video review of Fortune Summoners, Secret of the Elemental Stones. Let's jump right into the story. In Fortune Summoners, you take the role of Archie, a young girl who just moved into the little hamlet of Tonkiness. You are the new kid in town, and you must face all of the challenges that entails, plus raid dungeons. The game starts off as sort of an everyday kid's adventure, akin to something like The Goonies. The dialogue can be a bit long-winded, but it's well translated, quirky, and charming, so you probably won't mind. The combat of Fortune Summoners is robust and requires a fair amount of finesse. Button mashers beware, the game incentivizes precise controls and timing, so wildly spamming the attack button may not be the best course of action. Another thing worth mentioning is the AI of the enemies. The enemy AI is surmountable, but they definitely won't take it lying down. So you happen to just spend a few seconds charging up that ice spell? The enemies in Fortune Summoners seem to know the secret that not many other video game enemies know. Move. The enemies will duck, dive, dip, and dodge of any attack they see coming. While most games feature AI that is little more than fodder, Fortune Summoner enemies feature a degree of intelligence and actual sense of self-preservation. If this is a good or bad thing totally depends on your taste in baddies. I, for one, happen to like smarter AI. On to a few of the bad things about the design of Fortune Summoners. One of the biggest annoyances of Fortune Summoners is that there's no really good reliable way of reviving your party members after they've died without having to spend money on expensive items or rare drops. This is especially frustrating when you're deep inside a dungeon and a character you need to complete the dungeon dies. This means either trekking all the way back to an end or a healer, or having the rest of your characters in the party commit video game seppuku and perish. This will give you the option of either to try the fight again, which doesn't really help if the character's been dead for a while, or return to safety for a 10% money loss. Neither option is particularly appealing. A good thing is that this game does feature controller support, and the gameplay is definitely stronger because of it. But keep your keyboard close by though, as trying to navigate any menus with the controller is nearly impossible due to the insanely fast scroll speed. It's also damn hard to know where you're supposed to be going or who you're supposed to be talking to. While I can understand wanting to forego the all-too-popular hand-holding of today's generation of game design, many of these instances leave the game in a fairly unprogressible state. For instance, there's a point in the story where you have to gain access to a dungeon, but of course it is guarded by an NPC whose sole purpose in his virtual life is to impede your progress. So in order to gain access to this dungeon, you can't sneak in, you can't beat up the guard, you can't even bribe him. Nope, you have to give him a sandwich from an out-of-the-way NPC, and a love letter from an even further out-of-the-way NPC. Great story progression, it is not. Another thing of note is that the difficulty can definitely be up there in the early goings-on due to the limited party size. As far as the visuals goes, that's one of the strong points of Fortune Summoners. The visuals are basic but fitting a game of this caliber. The 2D sprites on a multi-layered 2D background are charming if nothing else. While the anime character art style may be a tad overplayed, it's still endearing and pleasant to look at when it's done well, and Fortune Summoners does do it well. Music is upbeat and quirky, matching the game's not-so-serious tone, but some of the sound effects can come across as a little loud and cacophonous, meaning they have the potential to make your ears bleed, but overall the audio design is very well done. The design and gameplay of Fortune Summoners is a lot of fun and appeals to the core gamer's instincts very well. The presentation, however, tends to indicate the desired audience as preteen girls. There's even a sickeningly cute flying rabbit thing that replaces all of its R's with W's for that added layer of diabetes-inducing sweetness. The game is a tad kiddie in its presentation. That being said, the story, music, and well-crafted combat design makes Fortune Summoners a real treat for those looking for something different in an industry filled with epic sprawling landscapes and hundreds of side quests. Sometimes simpler is definitely better. Fortune Summoners gets a 3 out of 5.